Welcome to the Real Estate Rundown. So much going on in real estate. Let's kick off today talking about Invitation Homes. Oh my goodness, they have been in some hot water all year. They had that settlement for the guy that took them down with the AI and how he found out that they made all of these renovations without building permits. And now they have settled a claim with the FTC for $48 million. They are accused of charging renters junk fees. And it's apparently been systemic over time, and $48 million, guys, is quite a bit of money. Now, keep in mind, Invitation Homes is the largest owner of single-family homes across the U.S. at about 88,000 homes. Is this a drop in the bucket to them, or does this impact them? What do we think?
What kind of junk fees are you talking about here?
So they were charging renters apparently like an extra $1,200 a year.
Wow.
In there. They're calling them junk fees. Plus, further, they're saying they systemically withheld the tenant's security deposits after they moved out, unfairly charged them for normal wear and tear, and used unfair eviction practices.
Yeah, I don't know about that. It's because renters can be really hard on the properties. So
I know that's really like a matter of opinion.
Yeah, but it could just be like hey, that's an extra profit center here. Let's just charge everybody extra $150 at the end. And
I mean, okay, if you have 88,000 rentals, how many do you think are turning every year?
Oh my gosh. Well, the turnover rate on that has got to be what you factor 5 to 10% vacancy. So 5 to 10%, I would say that's going to hold true too.
8 to 12,000 homes every year.
So then if you tacked on an extra $500 to $1,000 on each of those turnovers, that's a pretty penny.
Heck yeah.
I wonder what kind
$48
of
million though?
But for those quote unquote junk fees, I mean, are they saying that they weren't disclosed and the tenant didn't know that they were being charged that? Whatever they're
who knows? The article doesn't say that, huh?
It doesn't say that. And
See,
Invitation Homes wanted to make sure that this settlement was not an admission of any wrongdoing.
Yeah, I mean, $48 million is really not that much money.
Their stock barely moved. Their stock barely went down.
Yeah, that's an average of about 10,000. If they turn over 10,000 homes, that's about an average of $4,800 per property. So, I mean, that's definitely a nice little slap on the hand with that kind of volume. With that said, was this one of those situations where they felt like they had some exposure, maybe would have won, but it could have brought out a lot of red, right, in the media and caused a lot of issues? So
yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I think we don't really know all the information,
right?
Because the article doesn't really say what kind of junk fees these are. Because I do know that as being a landlord before, people can destroy your houses, and I spilled grape or red Kool-Aid on the carpet here. I can't get it out. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You gotta you can't just take a.
You can't re-rent that.
You can't re-rent it like that. You can't take a cut out of a piece of carpet and put a new piece of carpet there if it's just a different kind of carpet. You gotta replace the whole room.
Absolutely. As a landlord, especially if you don't do your walkthroughs on properties and you have a tenant that lives there for 2-3 years, it's happened to me a time or two. You walk in, you're like, this house was in perfect condition because now it looks like you've lived here for 25 years.
Yeah.
Oh my
I guess
goodness.
what is normal wear and tear? Right? I mean, I guess what is it?
What is normal wear and tear? It's definitely not you spilled a bottle of bleach on the living room carpet.
Yeah, well, but there's blatant damage. But I'm just talking about they don't vacuum regularly. They don't clean the tops of the baseboards. The kids put their hands all over the wall. So yeah, it's a deep clean that needs to be done. And most of the time it's a deep clean that you just can't wipe off anymore or magic eraser. A house has to be repainted.
Yeah. Or you got people that hang up pictures and put holes in the walls and, a TV. And
dog hair.
On the walls. Yeah.
Okay, guys, true or false?
False.
Invitation Homes has a higher market cap than Zillow.
I already know the answer, so.
I mean, I don't
that's
know.
true.
So is it true or false?
Oh wait, no.
That's true.
Actually, I don't know. I was
Elliot, what is it then? Let's let Elliot. He was so confident. What is it, Elliot?
I was thinking of a different company that we were talking about that I'm going to leave out right now.
Are you thinking of F&F?
Yes.
Because I told you that the other
Yes.
day. No,
Yes.
Zillow. Who has the bigger?
I think they have a higher market cap.
I'll say true just because because are they publicly owned or privately owned?
Invitation Homes?
Public.
They're public.
That's
Public,
right.
yeah.
Okay, I was thinking of someone else that said they were the largest privately owned, but I remember.
That's
who that is now.
Progress, right?
That's Progress. So, yeah, they are the largest.
But yeah, I would say because they own a ton of properties, which the asset class has to be worth.
Oh, almost
ton.
100,000
So that's why I say
homes.
true.
So you're going with true? How
Yeah.
about you, Eliot? True or false?
True.
True or false?
True.
Okay, yes,
I think-
it is true. Anyone want to guess? So
Hold on, let me see if I can. Let's see, 100,000.
21 million.
Let's go
21 billion.
times 320.
Jay was like,
It's Jay,
Hold
Jay's
on.
not looking at my screen.
Shoot.
No, I don't have it up, so he can't.
oh,
he
that's
can't see it.
Zillow.
This is
Invitation
Zillow.
Homes about 20 billion.
I'm gonna go with 30 billion.
Well, I mean, if they're higher, I'll go 25. I'll
Okay,
I'll
so-
split the difference.
30, 25,
20.
20. Okay, Invitation Homes market cap as of today is 21.47 billion.
Their assets though are like
It was
gonna
not going
be-
over. You lost. Keith won. I'm just kidding.
Oh man,
I'm kidding.
I was closest to 21
Okay, so
billion.
Zillow is almost 15 billion today. That's crazy. Like seriously, if you're listening, did you really think the Invitation Homes market cap was bigger than Zillow? Like, it's insane.
Well, and
it's-
especially considering that the
nothing to
monetization
Microsoft.
of attention, right? Like
Yeah, true.
You got Microsoft at 2 trillion.
Or Nvidia.
Or, yeah, like
yeah,
Nvidia,
oh, yeah.
Apple.
like
Or Apple,
3 trillion.
3.5 trillion.
Like
But still,
15 billion
for
is
real
nothing.
estate though, for real estate companies.
Yeah, for real estate.
It's
companies,
big.
sure.
Remember, Zillow just has not recovered ever since they went into the iBuy space. I mean, yes, they've like restabilized, but I think that
They
was-
haven't?
if-
Are you sure?
I'm not sure, but I want to say I believe that their market cap at one point in time was like 50 billion. They were way up there, and they got hammered.
Yeah, I guess as I'm looking back,
2021.
2021. Yeah, their stock was up to 197. Well, how is Zillow going to handle the new go forward with the NAR settlements? So we have some information from Reddit. It's a really interesting story, and this kind of gives you a little insight into the psyche of buyers right now. This is a post on the real estate subreddit. It says, buyer representation when viewing a listing, please help. In light of the recent NAR settlement, I've started finding the listing agents of properties that my wife and I are interested in and setting up showings ourselves without a buyer's agent. Many of the listing agents have requested us to start signing exclusive buyer representation agreements, most for just a day or other short period of time, or just for that property. The problem arises when we see multiple properties in a week and there are multiple agreements that we may accidentally overlap. Are we required to show the listing agent our buyer's agreement? Can we just say that we won't be touring without a buyer agent or that we will be self-representing? Research on the bills themselves from the various governments is hard to find a definite answer. And personally, I take NAR Settlement 101 articles with a grain of salt. The TLDR, do you need a buyer's agent agreement to see a home with a listing agent? Can I just say that we'll be self-representing and sign an affidavit saying as much?
Yes.
That's bold, man. I mean, especially
So-
if it's, I mean, I know Reddit is obviously a forum for this, but these are the types of things like these little scuttlebugs can turn into like monsters.
Well, it's already going to be a monster. I mean, buyers are going to go directly to the listing agent. Especially in a hot market. We haven't hit a hot market yet.
No.
If you have a buyer's agent in the hot market, you're cooked.
Well, what is it? It's a month old? August 17th. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're just over a month old.
Yeah, well, and to be fair, many MLSs rolled out the rule
Yeah.
changes beginning of August, so maybe we're at max close to 60 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're already seeing buyers go, I don't need a buyer's agent. I'm just going to go directly to the listing
Yeah.
agent.
I
This
mean,
thing is
you
just
can go
gonna
buy a
continue
car
to grow.
from a dealer. You can go buy a car from a private party. Why can't you buy a house?
Agreed.
Now, some buyers probably could get, steamrolled. Like if I were a listing agent and a buyer came directly to me, I would probably say maybe have them do a non-refundable earnest money after the inspection period, and they'd probably sign it. Where if you had a buyer's agent, I probably wouldn't be able to get away with that.
Or think of all the little terms in a contract that are negotiable that the buyer wouldn't know what's appropriate, such
Yep.
as earnest money. Like how much earnest money is appropriate?
50,000.
Exactly, and it's hard after the inspection period.
Yep.
Yeah.
This makes me think of something I read in like one of the popular agent forums here in Arizona. It was yesterday or the day before, where essentially a listing agent got an offer on a property, countered. I think they basically countered back, and the buyer withdrew and insulted, basically kind of attacked the listing agent. by them saying, hey, you weren't offering, putting it out there that you're publicly offering to them, my buyer doesn't want to play any games, and they're, basically bouncing. And he's like, all you had to do was ask. And so it was just like it turned into like this whole back and forth. And people were like, it's misleading.
Is it misleading? No, it's fiduciary to your client who is the seller.
All the savvy, experienced agents just said exactly what you said. All the less experienced agents were like, well, I don't see what the problem is. Well, does your client want the house or not, for starters? And to make a statement of they don't want to play any games, they don't want to play any games based around your commission. Come on, man. That's what I gotta say there.
Come on, man.
Exactly. Come on, man.
What do you think, Keith? So many thoughts.
Keith doesn't want to talk about. What are we talking about, Keith?
Keith is like, I don't
He's
even
thinking about a deal right now.
What are we saying? what was the article? Well, no, I mean, it's definitely interesting to see where things are going, because we were talking about this a little bit beforehand, that now that this is happening, there has to be a new thought process in place with buyers, whether they really realize what this is about or they don't. And it is interesting conversations to have, because, like the article says, as a listing agent, if somebody comes to you, right, here's the one thing that you have to deal with as a realtor in the industry that we all have, gotten sidestepped, so to speak, where you take time, energy, and effort to go show someone a property, and then they give you the middle finger, so to speak. Oh, never mind, I'm talking with this person. But because in good faith, you spent time, energy, and effort to go with them, you're thinking, oh, well, they'll come back to me, they'll use me. And then they don't. They go use someone else. And then you get, what you perceive as being, screwed out of a sale. So I can see why it's frustrating for the buyer, having these realtors, but they're also wanting to protect themselves. So
yeah, they want to pay
they're buy a house, sign a one-day agreement, right? They're going to have to sign a one-day agreement legally in that situation.
No.
All it comes down to.
Well, what if they see 5 properties in that one day and they pick one property, then and
2
all
weeks down the road.
4 other agents that didn't get the commission, I'll go after that
well,
buyer.
then that's
they
why
would never know though. That's the thing.
why you sign it just for one property. So
you
it's
said
like
property
specific.
So if you're a buyer, property specific, hey, I'll sign an agreement for you to see this property, and I'll you can represent me on this property. I think it's gonna take one cycle to where buyers really just understand, or the world starts to understand how this is gonna work. And I think once we're not in a hot market right now, but once we go through a hot market, and buyers that stick with their buyer's agent and they get smoked on every freaking property because other buyers figured it out and they're going directly to the listing agent and saying, you can represent me and I'll, you can have both, 2 sides of the commission, and they're going to win every time. Right. Because as a listing agent, if you're representing the seller and you have a buyer that coming towards you or coming with you saying, hey, I want this house, tell me what I need to do to get it, and then you get 3 other offers from buyer's agent, well, you're able to tell the buyer what they need to be at to get the house. Right. They're gonna win.
And there's some states where dual agency is not allowed, and I suppose you could structure it without it being dual agency. But I do agree that in most scenarios that's going to play out probably just like you said.
Well, it's like a new norm is unveiling itself, right?
Well,
I like the idea of the cycle, though. I think you're right with that.
Yeah, we haven't gone through the hot market yet.
So when's the new cycle, guys?
Well, it seems like well, I don't know. A new cycle seems to happen every 3 to 5 years. So
Pumptober.
I mean,
October.
I think the end of this year, next year, because of potentially what's going to be coming from I'll just say it solely from the crypto space, is definitely going to probably be a game changer for everything else. There's going to be so much money flowing in and into that marketplace. There's no way that people aren't going to cash out and start spending more money.
Well, historically a lot of the cycles are like 5 to 7 years. It's hard to predict what the up and the down is during that 5 to 7 year window. But I know, like, I've read things in the past around a lot of conglomerate buyers that, they look for those 7 years. And that's, one of the reasons why they will hold and, depreciate and all those things during the 7 year, because of when the acquisition and the resale and all those types of things. And they try to sell in the up of somewhere in that 7 year hold time frame. But to your point, is it going to be different this time? Because think about it. We obviously went through COVID not that long ago. There was a crazy amount of demand. There was still a crazy amount of shortage. Money is very expensive still. I mean, we've seen some downward pressure on it, but we're in the low sixes right now. And there was a lot of economists that said once we hit the low sixes, it's going to spike. And not that, I mean, it's obviously starting to surge up in certain areas, but not.
It's not spiking.
It's not, no. Well, we also know that the months leading up to the election are typically a little bit slower. And so this could also be the election cycle playing out. I have a prediction to make. I think that the next kind of scrutiny we're going to see come on the industry is going to be over referral fees. And I'm already kind of like sensing it. 1000 Watt did that research where they surveyed consumers and they asked them, hey, do you understand that when you go to Zillow and you submit your contact information and you get paired up with an agent, that if you use that agent, then a portion of their commission goes to Zillow? And overwhelmingly, the consumers were like, no, we had no idea. And then they asked them, are you okay with that practice? And like, overwhelmingly, the response was like, I'm only okay with it if I know about it. And when I don't know about it, it feels kind of gross.
Dirty.
Yeah. And
because it could be thousands of dollars going to Zillow.
And then if you're a buyer,
thousands in most cases.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
And if you're a buyer, how can you have the advantage in the marketplace if you're working with an agent that has to pay a referral fee?
Because they want to make as much as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like, I think that's the next area that's going to come under tremendous scrutiny. And how come nobody is talking about Zillow's business model and the fact that most of their money is made from Premier Agent Services? And it's like unraveling, like before our eyes.
Yep.
Short Zillow.
I don't know about that.
Well, or the Zillow Flex, right? Are they going to just double down on Zillow Flex? I feel like they've been doubling down on Zillow Flex for a while.
Yeah, they have. And they've been doubling down on Zillow Mortgage, and they've been doubling down on rentals. And you read their shareholder reports, and they're definitely like other revenue streams.
Yeah, for sure. But those buyers' leads that's the lion's share of their
butter.
revenue.
Yeah.
So if their lion's share of their revenue is going to be hurt, wouldn't their stock go down?
Is this the demise of Zillow?
I don't know if it's the demise, but they're definitely gonna. I mean, I don't see it in any other different way. I mean, if you guys see it different way, put a comment out there. Because I have no idea.
I don't see it a different way. They're too big.
But yeah, I mean,
300 million visits carries so much power. I mean, obviously, Homes.com has spent $1 billion to try.
But they have to pivot. They have to pivot to somewhere else to get the revenue because their buyers.
Sure.
If we're gonna go through another cycle where we're in a hot market, they're going to get smoked.
They have to figure out a revenue.
So the pivot, which they've been doing, is to rentals, is to mortgage, is to, as Eliot mentioned, flex. So there's definitely pivots happening, but is it enough? And is it fast enough either? I mean, this is a behemoth. Can they move fast enough? Can they anticipate and react? It's going to be interesting.
Well, and I mean, let's go a level deeper on this, because I mean, I would imagine most people know what Zillow Flex is, but I mean, really, it's you're paying a referral for them giving you a lead. And that's where I totally think you're onto something with your statement about scrutinizing the non-disclosed referrals. And when you really think about it, agents will gladly pay these hot leads, because a lot of times it's a vetted out, more of a quality lead than just something that you pay, your zip code monthly expense to, or maybe a one-off lead, not Zillow, but that type of lead. So when you have that, and you're paying a 30%, or 30 or 35% was what I actually think Flex is, that's really expensive. But for Zillow and their monetization model, if they can get that going versus an agent that's paying $800 a month to get 60 leads, right? Let's just say from that. Well, if they can give those people, or the agents, the ability to convert 2 or 3 of those people, and now all of a sudden they're making $10,000, let's just say, from those 2 or 3 conversion referrals per an agent, what they're working at a scale, you're gonna see market cap go up, not down in that situation. It's all about the conversion, right? Can they create the conversion cycle that makes sense?
Sure. Can they? We'll see.
Yeah, we will see.
But I mean, they have they made a lot of revenue off of buyers agents, and
passive too. That's the cool thing.
Now they have some sort of Zillow what is it, buyer representation form or something like that now?
Yes,
that they do. So does Zillow have them fill that out before they give out the lead?
Yes. And it's just for, I think it's property
like
specific.
A week?
No, I think it's like property
specific.
Property specific. Yeah, because you can go onto Zillow and you can like pick the time you want to see a house and be paired up with a buyer's agent, and you
Gotcha.
sign that as a buyer. You sign that right then.
But as a
like a touring
as
agreement.
a Zillow Premier agent, and I'm getting these one day or property specific buyer, look at this property
Touring
thing,
agreements, right?
in a hot market, and I get like 5 of them, and I'm having to run around to all these freaking properties to show all these different buyers and try to make a relationship with them. But these buyers know that, hey, I want to win. I want to go directly to the agent. It's not
or
gonna
it's
work.
a one shot, one kill, and if they don't get it,
yeah.
Man, I'm having like a bit of an epiphany right now as you guys are saying this. I got to just admit, because
Okay, let's admit it.
I'm like sitting here thinking to myself, what an unfair advantage Zillow has. Because like, think about this, right? Like, how many times do you want something, you do this, and then it just, a little disclaimer comes up, do you agree? Click, yes, boom, it's done. Versus the agent that gets the call, that has to show up. Sure, I can do this for you, you out-of-state buyer. I don't know you, but you have to sign this agreement that ties you to this. And if you decide to buy this house, here's it, right? Like all of that goes down. And I mean, I understand if you're a listing agent,
But they're agreeing with no money though.
I understand
that Zillow agreement is
For free.
This is
right,
free.
for free.
Yeah.
I'll show you a house for
No,
free.
but Eliot's epiphany is that Zillow has the convenience
Yes.
mechanism. I think that the pivot Zillow needs to make is more of the play that Homes.com is making. And Homes.com is prioritizing the listing. It's your listing, your lead.
list.
And I
Yep.
think that if Zillow did that, we could see the buyer in a position where they could win because they're going to be paired right up with a listing agent. Zillow could still collect their referral fee, and the buyer could still win because they're going directly to the listing agent. And Zillow could actually probably monetize more if they made that pivot, right?
That's a
but
really
the really
interesting statement.
smart buyers will find the property on Zillow, see that what agent it is.
Yes.
And they will Google that agent's name
Yep.
and get their real phone number, because Zillow usually is a phone number that is a Zillow number, and
Yes.
it tracks them, and go directly to that agent and get to see that property.
Yep. So agents, make
So they
sure
don't have
your
to pay that
contact
30%.
information is so easy to find. Like if it is tough to find you online, you are going to lose. So that is the advice to
Yeah.
agents.
I'm just sitting here thinking we got to figure out how to make this for the properties that we work with. Right? Get that.
It's self-touring. I mean, we've
self-touring. Yes.
We've been working on a self-touring mechanism for a while, and it's going to be a game changer.
It's coming, right? Like, I mean, like even I know we're totally going off on this topic, but like you said with the cars before, that you could just wander on the lot. I mean, granted, it's different because all the products are collected in a lot, which is why you'll do that.
Yeah.
But it's
But
still the
not
same. It's still the same
necessarily.
principle.
Like if you're considering like Audi and
yeah,
you go to
you're
different
going to
lots.
multiple different places.
right,
Yeah.
and Mercedes and stuff, you're going to different.
That's true. Last time I bought a used car, I certainly didn't go look at all the used cars I was shopping for were not at the same lot.
Right.
That bounce around.
And buyers don't know what's customary. Like, hey, is it customary to pay for the HOA transfer fee? Is it customary to pay for this or that, or to pay for my appraisal, or that sort of thing.
Sure.
So, I mean, as a listing agent, you can really kind of snow that buyer and be like, yeah, no, it's customary for you to pay for all of these things.
I think actually this comes back to like being like this is like a Gary V 101. Show buyers how to buy a house without you. That's how you win, and put it online and mass circulate that and educate them and be the source, so that if they try it and they're like, it's a little too much,
sucks.
they go to you because they were like, oh, you were the one that gave me the information for free. You educated me on this process for free. Same thing. Like I know we've shared that with listings. Like tell sellers how to sell without you. Like,
Well, and not only that, like in AI, right? Like we all know that how fast approaching that is. Imagine now you have a self-touring app and AI, Z's right there to answer any question you have. What is customary? What can I pay for? What should I do? Well, what should I do in this home inspection situation? What if my property doesn't appraise?
yes. Okay. So Eliot, tell us about the new home report, because we've been working on that for a very long time, and it is now out. It is live. If you've not seen the Zoodealio home report, you need to. What are some of the key highlights?
Yeah, so I'll give a quick little excerpt on it, and to me, it's more about like the why versus just the how, because the how I will sprinkle a little on that. It gives you access to your instant valuation, instant equity on that property, multiple cash offers, rent versus sell options, right? So there's a lot of just really shiny objects for your prospects, your client list to be pulled into and gather that. Now let's talk around the why. The whole point of this is to be able to engage those prospects, capturing those behaviors. They get reported right back to you so that ultimately you know who to focus on. Because why? It gives you back your time. Time, our most important resource and asset.
And this is focusing on sellers and not buyers.
Yes.
Whereas, hey, if your business is focused on buyers, you need to switch it.
If you're buying IDX leads, you might be in trouble.
Yeah, you need to focus on sellers now. And
I'm glad that you did bring up IDX leads, right? I actually saw something, and I think this was from Tom Ferry, and I don't know how factual this is, but something around like a lot of real estate agents in their contact list that less than 50% of all of their contacts do not have an address. We solved that problem with this as well because we know that most people's contact lists come from IDX as buyer registration leads. So this takes them through a process to where if you have a name or an email address, well, guess what? We're going to add data integrity to your list by capturing that address, giving it back to you. So in the event that you met Susie Swanson 4 years ago and she's moved 3 times since then, you're now going to get her current address.
Sweet.
I love that, Eliot. Okay, so let's kind of wrap up today with a pulse on the market. We work with buyers that are purchasing all across the country. Keith, what are some of the trends and insights that you can share on that end?
Well, I can tell you right now, it's more important than ever to make sure your property is as move-in ready as possible, and that this is kind of subjective, right, to each particular buyer. But the less that a buyer perceives that they need to do to a property, hands down, has your property move faster and for more money. And that's not really like a magic pill or wand. That's always been the case. But when you're dealing with a market where buyers are a little bit on the edge, that is what makes you ultimately win more than we've seen in a really long time.
So condition is, again, reign supreme.
Yeah, and not unless you're ready to give a nice deep discount, which most sellers aren't willing to do, right? Everyone wants quote unquote top dollar for their house. So just make sure that, when you're out there talking with the home sellers, to let them know, hey, you got some decisions to make here, and here's a couple of those scenarios, what they might look like. And that way they're just prepared.
Well, by having a really nice property, it pulls back in like some certainty, right? Meaning that it's going to be less time on the market. It's more likely to sell quickly. And you're ultimately opening up to the biggest buyer pool available for that property, because just like we were talking about, nobody wants to walk into that house where kids' hands are all over the wall, dirty tops of the baseboards, messy carpets, floors, etc., right? Those things just drag on. So it's more than just the deep clean, I know, because people want ultimate bang for buck with money as expensive as it is.
So here's where I'll leave it with, like in particular, that's why our Cash Plus program that we work with, that Kayla mentioned, purchases properties all across the country, is so extra successful right now in a market such as this, is because the properties that are being purchased as is, and then they go to resell, what comes up as common objections when buyers are touring the property? Well, during the Cash Plus process, the buyer normally gives, hey, you want it as is? We'll provide that to you, just because it's all about options. But it's really hammered home that we're able to come in and improve the property to ensure that it sells for more money and faster, which is a win for everybody, for the structured program, the agent, the buyer, everyone that's a part of that transaction. And when this home seller chooses not to move forward with the improvements, those are the objections that come up, ironically enough, why the property's being shown as is. And then it's very common for us to have the agent go, man, I really wish the seller would have picked the repairs. And then I think a lot of light bulbs go off and they're like, okay, now I truly see the massive value proposition of this program, especially when you're working with it for the first time, right? They go like, oh, what do you mean? You want $30,000 to do X, Y, and Z, well, based on these comparables and these comparables, we're likely to result in selling at this price, but based on these comparables and market conditions, this is why the reserve is where it's at, because we don't want it to happen, but there's a probability it could happen, and that has to be taken into consideration. And sometimes they just don't always understand, maybe the big picture or how to go sell that value proposition to the seller. But so that's the trend. That's what I wanted to throw out there. So for those of you who are a part of the platform and you have not experienced or done a nice deep dive into the Cash Plus, make sure you do that, because that's where you can have a massive win for your home sellers.
I love it. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, if you're enjoying this content, please be sure to add to the conversation, leave a comment, like it, and hit the subscribe button so you get notified of our new episodes.
See you next time.